Hey guys, welcome back for another video. The NFL football season is finally here. Week 1 is about to kick off this Thursday. We have a lot of great games coming up. What we're going to be doing today is we are going to be breaking down our Week 1 NFL predictions for the 2024 NFL season. We have 6 first-round quarterbacks drafted. A lot of them are going to be starting their first games this week. We have some massive games coming up, some playoff rematch games. Go ahead, hit that like button, and subscribe. If you have any comments, drop them below, and I'll make sure to respond. Like I said, we're going to be looking at our Week 1 matchups, trying to predict the outcome, who's going to win, and what the final score is. Later this week, we'll have our best bets coming out. That's the spreads, money lines, and the over-unders. But let's go ahead and get started running through these games because we have some pretty exciting games for our Week 1 slate. Kicking things off Thursday at 8:20 p.m. on NBC, we have the Baltimore Ravens visiting the defending Super Bowl champs, the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs come in here. They are 3-point favorites. The over-under is 46.5. Obviously, you have Lamar Jackson versus Patrick Mahomes. This is a top 5 quarterback matchup. 2 MVP winners matching up versus one another. Playoff implications here because these are the teams that you obviously need to beat in path to the Super Bowl. The Chiefs started out the 2023 season really slow, lost their first game. They had a lot of drop passes. A lot of people were doubting them, but as the season went on, they continued getting better. The Chiefs don't want that slow start this season. They want to start off hot. They want to right some of those wrongs. They are kind of banged up. Brown's hurt. Rice is hurt, but they did draft Worthy out of Texas. He's like a second coming of Tyreek Hill. He's going to be a vertical guy that can stretch the field, vertical deep passes. And obviously, they still have Travis Kelce. They still have one of the best defenses in the entire NFL, a top 3 defense. But the Ravens also, they have a top 5 offense. They have a top 5 defense coming in from last season, and they added Derrick Henry. What does he have left in the tank? We don't know, but I think he's going to be just fine. This is the top rushing team from the NFL last season. They're going to be pushing the ball down the field, running downhill. You have Lamar Jackson slinging it back and forth. I'm going to go with the Ravens to get the win here on the road. I have the Baltimore Ravens winning this one 24-20, so obviously that spread's not getting covered there. But this game could go either way. This is a 50-50 game. If the Chiefs won it, I would in no way be surprised, but these teams are virtually matched across the field. But if it comes down to one final possession, if the Chiefs have the ball last, they're probably going to win this game. But I think the Ravens beat them just because I have the Chiefs starting the season a little bit slow. They're kind of banged up at the skill position. The next matchup we have is also going to be a fun one. We have the rare Friday night game, Friday, September 6th, coming in at 8:15 p.m. on Peacock. We have the Green Bay Packers versus the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles, 3-point favorites here. The over-under is 48.5. This is a good game because it's 2 young quarterbacks playing off that both left a little something to be desired on the field last season. You have Love versus Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, obviously, he went to the Super Bowl 2 years ago last season, a good first half. Second half, the Eagles completely fell off. They could not score. He was getting pressured. He was making bad decisions, and their defense could not get a stop at all to save their life. They were getting beat on both sides of the ball. They kind of fell apart. Can they rebound? This is a really good roster. This is a top 10 roster, but they have to get everything on the same page. Packers, Jordan Love stepped up massively, replacing Aaron Rodgers this past season. He had a great year. He got his massive contract. He's set to go. There's a great matchup between 2 young mobile quarterbacks that do love to throw the ball down the field. You also have Saquon Barkley versus Josh Jacobs. Both teams are set at quarterback. Both teams are set at running back. Both teams have very skilled wide receivers. The Eagles have one of the better wide receiver rooms in the nation. So obviously Hurts has a lot of weapons to be able to vertically get the ball down to. But whose defense is going to be better the quickest? Both teams are breaking in new defensive coordinators. Packers could not stop anyone from running on them last season. The Eagles secondary was complete Swiss cheese last year. So who's going to be the most improved there? That's what's going to make the difference. But this game has shootout written all over it going down to the end of the fourth quarter. I have the Eagles getting the win 28-27 and obviously not covering that spread. We're now moving on to our Sunday slate of games and kicking things off at 1 p.m. on Fox. We have the Pittsburgh Steelers visiting the Atlanta Falcons. This is two teams that went through a lot of changes in the offseason. Obviously, the Falcons got a new head coach. Both teams got new quarterbacks in, so we're going to see a new generals on both sides of these teams leading these teams on the field. Steelers still have Mike Tomlin. They're still going to have a top 10 defense, a very physical defense looking to shut down the run game. Falcons are a stacked team. Obviously, they're bringing in Kirk Cousins, but Kirk Cousins hasn't played very much in the preseason. So he's going to be rusty. He has to be rusty. New team, new scheme, and he hasn't played in over a year. It might take him a couple possessions to kind of get into the groove, but if he's in the groove, obviously he's a gunslinger. He's going to be looking to vertically push the ball down the field, and they're set there. They have weapons. They have Algiers, they have Bijan Robinson, they have Pitts, they have Landon. They have the weapons to run, pass. They have a solid defense. It's just, can they get everyone on the same page? Kirk Cousins is an experienced quarterback, and you have Michael Penix Jr., first-round draft pick at quarterback. Just in case anything happens to Kirk Cousins, he's waiting in the wings to take over. Steelers, obviously, they're bringing in Russell Wilson. Bad year last season. Does he have anything left over? Had some flashes preseason, looked pretty bad sometimes. Which version of him are we going to get? And then you also have Fields there in the wings as well, another young quarterback who showed a lot of flashes when he was with the Bears. I obviously Wilson's going to start, but I think no matter what, you're going to see Fields on the field in packages. The guy's too good, too talented, especially running the ball to keep him off the field. He's a massive playmaker, and Russell Wilson better watch out, because if he does suck, I think Tomlin's not going to hesitate to pull the trigger on him. The Falcons come in here, they're 3-point favorites, the over-under 42.5. I have the Falcons winning the opener at home in a close one, 20-17, so that would be a push, but that spread's probably going to come down as you get closer to game day. The only reason I have it being so close is I think, as I mentioned, Kirk Cousins is going to be a little rusty those first few possessions. The next matchup on Sunday at 1 p.m. on CBS, we have the Arizona Cardinals visiting the Buffalo Bills. These teams have a couple changes going on, especially the Bills. They had salary cap issues for the last few seasons. They did trade Stephon Diggs. That's a massive loss. That was Josh Allen's go-to guy. He's gone. Someone else has to step up now to take his place as wide receiver number one. You have Keon Coleman there, the draft pick. You have Curtis Samuel. They do have weapons. It's just who's going to fill in for a legitimate all-pro wide receiver. And the Bills lost a lot of their pieces on defense. So Josh Allen, who started out last year really bad first half, really stepped up second half and played better. One of the most physically gifted and talented quarterbacks in the country. He's going to have to start out this season hot. The team needs to rally around him. He needs to step up and put this team on his back and live up to all of the hype that he's been getting. For the Cardinals, obviously you have Kyler Murray fully healthy. He's going to be starting this season. They drafted Marvin Harrison Jr., one of the best wide receivers in the last decade coming out of college. But Arizona's biggest issue is going to be their defense. I think they'll be able to move the ball. They'll be able to get first downs and score. But what's going to happen with their pass rush? Are they going to be able to stop anyone from running the ball on them? Are they going to get any pressure on opposing quarterbacks? That remains to be seen. The roster has a lot of holes on the defensive side. That's going to take a couple years to build through the draft. The Bills, they're at home, starting out the season. Josh Allen, I think, is going to have a good game. This is a good team to have your first game on. The Bills come in here 6-point favorites, the over-under 48. I have the Bills winning this one 30-20 and covering that spread. The next game is also a matchup between two young, talented quarterbacks. Sunday, 1 p.m. on Fox, you have the Tennessee Titans visiting the Chicago Bears. The Bears are 3.5-point favorites here. The over-under is 44.5. Obviously, for Tennessee, new coaching staff, you have Will Levis. He showed some flashes last season. This team has massive holes on both sides of the ball, especially defense. So Will Levis is going to have a lot of pressure on him, and they still need to build up that wide receiver core to give him a lot more weapons if these games turn into shootouts. With the Bears, number one pick, you have Caleb Williams, the Heisman winner, coming in from USC. This is a Patrick Mahomes type player, very similar air raid scheme that they come from. He can throw from all of the arm angles. He's mobile. He likes to improvise. Sometimes he improvises too much, though, and the game gets away from him. How's he going to look? He showed flashes in preseason, showed a couple question marks, but he's a young quarterback. First season, first game here. I think you're going to see some flashes, and you're also going to see some points that you're just wondering, why did he do that? But no matter what, the Bears should be the more well-rounded, talented team. He has the better weapons. He has Keenan Allen, who's a reliable veteran, go-to on third down. They also have Rome Odunze out of Washington, a massive, big-bodied, young receiver that he can push the ball vertically down the field to, reliable. I have the Bears. They're going to win this one, but it's going to be a close game. I have the Bears winning this one 24-21, so that would not be covering the spread, but still a solid first win for Caleb Williams. The next matchup Sunday at 1 p.m. on CBS, the New England Patriots visiting the Cincinnati Bengals here. The Bengals are massive favorites. They're 8.5-point favorites here. The over-under is 40.5. So Vegas still has this being kind of a lower scoring game, but a convincing win for the Bengals. When you look at the Bengals roster, you definitely see why there's a massive talent gap here between these two games. New England has virtually no talent on the team. I'm not knocking the team. First-year head coach, complete new scheme, new coaching staff, young first-year quarterback starting. Their first-round pick, Drake May, he's stepping in. I was not sold on Drake May at UNC. Some people loved him. I didn't necessarily see the flashes there, but he's probably going to be the starter here for the Patriots. But where's the weapons at? Where's the running backs, wide receivers, tight ends? They don't have any. They had a putrid defense last season. They might be better this year, but you can only get so much better because they weren't able to build that much to the draft. Then you have the Bengals, a better offensive line. You have Joe Burrow at full health. You have a great running back room and one of the deeper wide receiver cores in the country. That's why they're the favorite, and they're at home. Look for Joe Burrow to cruise here. I have the Bengals winning this one 27-17 and covering that spread. The next matchup, again, two young quarterbacks. We're seeing a very common theme here. At Sunday, 1 p.m. on CBS, we have the Houston Texans visiting the Indianapolis Colts. The Texans on the road, 2.5-point favorites here. The over-under 48.5. C.J. Stroud versus Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson coming out of UF 2 years ago. I also was not sold on him as a first-round quarterback. He showed flashes last season in the couple games that he played. Showed a lot of question marks. I still wasn't sold, but a lot of people believe in Richardson. That's great. We just didn't get to see him enough because I think he only played 4 games. Then he got hurt and he was out for the rest of the season. But the talent's there, especially physical talent. We just haven't gotten to see him play too much in the NFL. As long as he stays healthy this season, we'll be able to get to see a lot more of him. Colts are not a bad roster by any means. They had an average offense last season, an average defense. That was without Richardson. So if he lives up to the hype, this is a potential borderline playoff team. He has a really good squad here that he can lead. The weapons are there. The talent's there. For the Texans, obviously, C.J. Stroud lit things up last season. One of the better rookie campaigns that we've seen in modern football. Very deep team, especially wide receiver core. One of the better young quarterback to wide receiver combos in the country. Defense is average, but they have an offense that can move the ball. But the Colts are at home. It's week 1. Anything can happen. I'm going to go with the Texans winning this one 27-21, covering the spread. But I would not be surprised if the Colts win at home. The teams aren't that far apart talent-wise. Like I said, we just haven't seen too much from Richardson. So if he is what a lot of people think he is, the Colts could easily win this game also. The next matchup's going to be a fun one, Sunday, 1 p.m. on CBS. The Jacksonville Jaguars visiting the Miami Dolphins. Miami is a 3-point favorite here. The over-under 49.5. A lot of people think this game's going to be close. I honestly don't see it as necessarily being that close. This is an in-state rivalry here. The state's rights are up for grabs here. Who's going to try to cement himself as the top team in the state? There's 3 really good state teams. Jacksonville, solid season last year, but they did not live up to the level of talent they had on their team. Trevor Lawrence took a couple steps back last season. He did lose some of his weapons from last year, so new guys have to step up. They have the talent there. Trevor Lawrence got his big contract. He needs to live up to the hype and utilize the weapons on this team. Some of his decisions last year were kind of boneheaded, but there's no doubt that the level of talent's there. He showed flashes. If he can just make those a little more consistent, This is a playoff caliber team. For Miami, we know what they are. They're going to have a top 5 offense. They can run the ball, one of the best running back rooms. Tua got his money. You have Hill, Waddle, Berrios, one of the best, if not the best, wide receiver core in the country. They have slot. They have vertical. They have McDaniel, one of the best offensive play callers. I have Miami winning this one at home, 30-21. I think personally they're going to cover the spread easily, but Vegas think the game's going to be a lot closer. Next matchup we're looking at Sunday, 1 p.m. on Fox. We have the Carolina Panthers visiting the New Orleans Saints. These teams both need to show who's the most improved over last season. Obviously, the Panthers were a complete train wreck last season, but everybody was expecting that. Bryce Young did not have a good rookie season by any means. Was that his fault? I don't know, because he didn't have very much talent. Basically, outside of Thielen, he really didn't have anyone else there. They didn't have a good run game. They didn't have a deep wide receiver core. The wide receiver core should be a lot better right now. The offensive line really couldn't get any worse. Still a lot of questions on defense for the Saints. On paper, they have one of the better rosters in football. I'm not saying they have a top 5 roster, but they have probably around number 10 to 12 rated overall roster. They have Olave, Carr. You know, he was up, he was down last season. He wasn't very accurate pushing a ball past 5 to 10 yards. I don't know what happened to him. He did not have a good season last year. So who's going to be the most improved? Obviously, the Saints have the better roster by far, but they play down to their level of competition every week. Saints here, 4-point favorites, the over-under 40.5. I'm going to go with the Saints winning at home, 24-17, and covering the spread. The next matchup also, 2 young quarterbacks again, Sunday 1 p.m. on Fox, the Minnesota Vikings visiting the New York Giants. This is a spread that's actually moving up in favor of the Vikings. Vikings are 2-point favorites here, over under 41.5. J.J. McCarthy, their first-round pick, he's hurt, he's out for the year, so Sam Darnold is going to get the nod at quarterback. Sometimes he's had some good games. Sometimes he's had some god-awful games. We have absolutely no clue what we're going to get on offense from the Vikings. Yes, they have Jordan Jefferson. There's weapons there. But with Darnold, I mean, this guy could throw 3 touchdowns. He could throw 3 picks. So it's kind of a leap of faith putting them as the favorites here. For the Giants, they had a bad year last season. Daniel Jones is back. What do you expect from that? That was a bad contract that they gave him. They did draft Malik Neighbors out of LSU. He is a difference maker at the wide receiver position. They needed a wide receiver number 1 last year. Their defense is, I guess, average. The offense is pretty pathetic. Daniel Jones, he's a mobile quarterback. As long as he's healthy and back to 100%, he might be able to play ball control, keep the ball out of the Vikings' hands. Vikings could have 2 turnovers. I'm going to go with the upset here. I have the Giants winning this one at home, 16-13, in a horrible, low-scoring, boring game. And obviously, I don't have the Vikings covering. But the Giants win 16-13. The next game we're going to look at Sunday at 4:05 p.m. on CBS. We have the Las Vegas Raiders versus the LA Chargers. The Chargers at home, 3-point favorites here. The over-under is 40.5. You have Antonio Pierce, now the full-time head coach for the Raiders. Props to him. When he took over, this team played really competitively the second half of the season. This is not a bad roster by any means. They have playmakers on defense. They have offensive playmakers. They can run the ball. They can play solid run control defense. Force teams who have to beat them vertically through the air. For the Chargers, they're kind of like the Saints. They have a really decent roster, but they were never on the same page. Whenever the offense played well, the defense played like crap. Whenever the defense played well, the offense couldn't score. But you have Justin Herbert there. You have weapons at wide receiver, tight end, running back, and Harbaugh's now back as the head coach. But this is his first game with this team. So it could be a little rusty. It might look a little bad at times, but I think he's going to be the guy to get the Chargers on the right track. I think Herbert's going to be very thankful that he now has an offensively focused head coach. That's why the Chargers are the favorite. But this is one of those games I don't feel confident in. This one could go either way. This spread's been moving up and down. I think it's probably going to close out around 2.5 or so. But right now, Chargers 3-point favorites. I have them winning, getting the push, winning this one 20-17 in a low-scoring game. Next matchup, we're looking at Sunday, 4:05 p.m. on CBS, the Denver Broncos visiting the Seattle Seahawks. Obviously, you have Sean Payton there. He drafted his style of quarterback. Bo Nix comes in as the quarterback. He's an accurate passer. Doesn't push the ball too vertically down the field, but he can dink and dunk you to death. That's what Sean Payton wants. He got his guy. He actually played pretty decent in the preseason, but will now be able to see what he does as the full-time starter. But the Seattle Seahawks, they're breaking in a new head coach. So how's that going to work out? You have Geno Smith, who had a really solid season last year, and they have playmakers. They have DK Metcalf at wide receiver, so a wide receiver number one, and they have Kenneth Walker at running back. So look for Seattle to, from my vision, to run the ball to death, keep the ball out of the Broncos' hands, run, third downs, pass it to Metcalf, who's going to be able to stop you. Broncos did not have a good defense last season. You have Seattle here. They're the 6-point favorites at home, over under 41.5. I have Seattle winning this one, 24-21, and not covering the spread. The next matchup is one that's going to get a lot of attention. Sunday, 4:25 p.m. on Fox. The Dallas Cowboys on the road playing the Cleveland Browns. The Cowboys are so hard to beat at home. The Browns, they're getting to start out the year with the Cowboys on the road. So the Cowboys, they're kind of out of their comfort zone going to Cleveland. Both of these teams have top 10 defenses. The Cowboys have a top 5 defense. This is going to be a really good game because whenever you have two good defensive teams playing, anything can happen because it's probably going to be kept to a one-possession game. So who's going to have the ball last? Who's going to play the best special teams? That could definitely make the difference here. But at least the Cowboys know defense always travels. They're going to be able to bring that on the road versus Cleveland. Cleveland, you have Deshaun Watson. That's kind of a gray situation because you don't know what you're getting with him. Is it a Deshaun Watson who shows the skills he had his first 2 years in the NFL, or is it the one that we've gotten for the last few years where he doesn't play, doesn't want to play, looks completely disinterested? We don't know what we're getting out of him right now. So it's kind of hard to gauge things because the talent's there. It's just the willpower to actually want to play decently. You have the Browns, though. They're the favorites versus the talented Cowboys. They're 2.5-point favorites here. The over-under 41.5. But the Cowboys have the good defense. They have Dak Prescott. You know what you're getting with him. They have CeeDee Lamb with his fresh new contract. Had almost 1,800 yards last season. I'm going to go with the Cowboys to win this one, 24-17, and for the spread not to be covered. Our next game is Sunday at 4:25 p.m. on Fox. The Washington Commanders visiting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bucs are 3.5-point favorites at home. The over-under 43.5. Two Heisman winning quarterbacks, Jaden Daniels, first-round pick, versus Baker Mayfield. Both have won the Heisman. Both have shown flashes. Jaden Daniels, to me, played really well in the preseason. He's a guy who has a very certain set of skills. He is mobile. He can run. He can sling it. How's that going to adapt to the NFL versus NFL defenses? The Bucs have a pretty good rush defense. So what kind of pressure are they going to get on him? Are they going to be able to force him into third and longs where he has to throw the ball on 3rd and 8? Or are they going to maybe force some bad decisions that worked at LSU, but it's not going to work with quicker corners in the NFL? That remains to be seen. This is his first game, so how well is he going to play game one? For the Bucs, surprise team last season, Baker Mayfield was one of the comeback players of the year last year. He had a solid offense, solid rush defense, one of the better wide receiver corps in the country. They can run the ball when they have to. They're at home versus a first-time starter. I have the Bucs winning this one, 27-20, and covering the spread. Washington was not a bad offense last season. They were a very good offensive team, but their offensive line was complete garbage, and their defense was just giving up nonstop scores. Jaden Daniels will help them because he's mobile, but I just don't have him winning his first game. But, he could definitely light things up. This game could turn into a shootout, and they could pull it out. But I'm going to go with the Bucs to win it. Then the final Sunday night game, Sunday at 8:20 p.m. on NBC, we have the LA Rams visiting the Detroit Lions. This game's on NBC. Detroit at home, 3.5-point favorites here. The over-under is 50.5. This is going to be a fun game. One of the best matchups of the weekend because it's two teams that can score almost at will. With the Rams, the big question is still their defense. Obviously, Donald's gone. They have to replace his massive talent. The offense, though, should have no troubles. Obviously, Stafford, Nakua, Cooper Kupp, you have Williams. They can run, they can throw. With the Lions, they finished 2 years ago, the second half of the season, really hard, and they picked up out the gate last year. This is a team with potential Super Bowl aspirations. The only thing that could stop them is themselves. They had a top 10 offense last season, a top 15 defense. They can run, they can throw. Goff had a great, one of the best quarterbacks years of last year. They can do anything that they need to do. Very well coached team, and they're aggressive when it gets down to the fourth quarter. That could make the difference here if they have the ball last. They're favored. They're at home. Their prospect, what they're looking at this year, is the Super Bowl. I think that they can definitely make a run at it. I have them winning game one, 27-23, and covering that spread. Then next game, the final game, Monday at 8:20 p.m. on ABC. A really fun game to watch. Monday, September 9th, the New York Jets visiting the San Francisco 49ers. 49ers are 4.5-point favorites here. The spread has moved up. The over-under is 42.5. The reason this game's so fun is this is two really good defensive teams matching up, but you have Aaron Rodgers. We haven't seen him play since game one last season when he had that one possession, got knocked out, missed the rest of the season. We're still wondering, how is Aaron Rodgers going to do with the Jets? We've been waiting 2 years to find out, and we finally get to find out, but he has to play the 49ers first game, a top 3 offense last season, a top 3 defense, one of the worst teams to have to play, and you're on the road in San Francisco versus a team that barely lost in the Super Bowl last year. The San Francisco 49ers, to me, they have the best top to bottom roster in the country. The best offensive roster, the best defensive roster at every single skilled position on both sides of the ball. They have special teams. They have great coaching. They don't make very many mistakes. They solve their issues. Trent Williams, Ayuk got his contract. They're set to go. Christian McCaffrey just has to stay healthy. The best running back in the country. They're set at wide receiver, tight end, running back, quarterback. The Jets, Rodgers is there. How's he going to play with the Jets? We don't know. We haven't seen it yet, but we know Saleh's going to have a solid defense. This team can play defensive ball. They have some new weapons on the offense, but Rodgers has basically been absent the whole preseason. For whatever reason, we haven't gotten to see much of him, and this is a guy who hasn't played in almost 2 years, and isn't very familiar with the scheme or the players on the team. And you're having to face the 49ers defense. I don't know how that's really going to match up, but we all know who Rodgers is, one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game. If he still lives up to that potential, he's going to light it up with whatever team he's with. But I had the 49ers winning this one 24-20, not covering the spread, but I think that spread might slide down as we get closer to game day. But I have the 49ers winning it, starting out the season 1-0. So that's our breakdown of week 1 of our NFL matchups. For the predictions, the best bets will be out later this week. Go ahead, hit that like button, and subscribe. If you have any comments, drop them below, and I will respond. Thank you.